Welcome to the Super Kids podcast that we made in our media productions class that we have every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Super Caden. This is
Super James.
And behind the camera we have
Super Hayden.
Super Joey.
And today we're here with
Mr. Phelps.
and we will be talking about the new phone policy called Away for the Day. So in the middle school, there's like no phones at all. You can only have them after school and before school. And then in the high school, you can have them in between classes and at lunch. So, Mr. Phelps, what is your opinion on the phone policy?
So just giving a little background, and we'll maybe have questions about this later, but there have been some studies done and probably came to the attention of kind of the state legislature last spring. And so there was a lot of momentum among schools that they might want to limit the amount of time that students have access to their own phones during the school day. So we've kind of looked at that over time and did not see it as a major issue here with students at Laverne, but understand that limiting distractions probably is one of our goals in any way. So look at it as an opportunity to limit distractions.
So, what do you think the state was thinking, like when they made that policy?
So a lot of the research from the state came out of some things that were in the media last year. So there were a couple documentaries and some studies done, and I'd say a lot of what they looked at was brain research that tells us a little bit about how while students' brains are developing and the amount of time that they spend on screens and the adverse effect that it might have. Again, didn't see it as a major thing in our school, but a lot of the state momentum was geared towards the idea that there might need to be a whole approach towards the idea that everybody limits screen time. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit at different times that this isn't necessarily something that is only relevant for students in school, but probably are adults and other individuals, and just the amount of time that individuals are spending on screens probably came to light a little bit more in the last couple of years.
So,
Caden, what do your parents think about the new phone policy?
they think it's great. People are way more active. They're getting outside. They're doing more stuff. What if they need to contact me? They don't really know because the office takes a little bit. They need to tell the office, and then the office needs to find the phone number of the classroom that you're in and find what classroom you're in and all that stuff. So, Mr. Phelps, is there any faster way that the office could is there any faster way that the office could contact you?
Sure. And a little bit of that is related to what we might consider an emergency, right? So a little bit of what we're going to talk about there too is as time goes on, we're pretty open to contact between all kinds of different people at all kinds of things. So we adults, everybody has become accustomed to the idea that everybody is available kind of all hours a day and relatively immediately. So part of the reason that the office might take longer to relay a message is that they have determined or maybe deemed that it's not an emergency. Okay? So in a case of an emergency, contact or kind of getting in touch with students is very easy and can be very fast and can happen real quick. But what we consider an emergency might be something that we redefine. So if a parent calls and you forgot your sack lunch and you think that's an emergency, we might consider that something that isn't as urgent, right? So a little bit what we're going to teach there also is that we're hoping that instead of relying on the idea that we can have constant contact immediately, we might communicate or plan ahead a little bit better.
So, James, what's your opinion on the phone policy?
Personally, I do not like it because I can't go on my phone in between classes or during lunch. But I also like it because more people are going outside and being active than they used to.
So what do your parents think about it?
Oh, my parents don't really know about the phone policy that much, but if they did, I think they would like it because more kids are going outside, like I had said.
So, Mr. Phelps, as a father, what do you think about it for your daughter?
So I'd say, when school's making decisions, obviously a piece of what we always look at is how we would relate to it as parents also. So probably one of the advantages is that, oftentimes people working at school, your teachers, administrators, and different things have students in school or have had students in school, and kind of give it a little bit of perspective. So again, for me, I don't necessarily see the need to have that constant contact throughout the day. And again, I'm probably a little bit biased in the idea that I think it puts us in a position where we're a little bit more focused on what's truly going on around us at the time that we're at school. So I'd say the one concern or question that I get from students is a little bit about the lunchtime. Is there a little bit of more freedom at lunch? Should we be able to have phones at lunch? And you guys have mentioned it, but I think it puts us in a little bit different situation, and we're able to kind of be a little bit more present with the people around us when we're not on our phone. So I support it as much as a parent as I do a school employee or administrator.
So what does your daughter think about it?
You'd probably have to ask her. I would say the likelihood is that she probably wants a little bit more access to her phone. But most of what I see with middle school students is not necessarily communicating or what I would say productive kind of things on our phone, but most of us who want access to our phone is just simply for something to take our mind off whatever else is going on. So oftentimes we're watching Reels or TikTok or things that just maybe take our mind off kind of what's going on around us. So I would say if you asked her, she probably would like to be able to do that more often in the day.
Do you think there's any way it's not beneficial?
I don't necessarily see a lot of downside right now. There probably are some instances when we know that we live in a world where we have access to our phones the majority of the time, and some of what schools should do is teach appropriate use. But right now I don't see a lot of downside. And part of that is because we see relatively compliant students, and we haven't had to work on enforcement a lot. If enforcement became a constant concern, then the benefit of it might start to dip a little bit. But the idea that we can spend 7 hours without our phones and interact with the people around us and focus on what we're doing at school, I don't think there's any downside to kind of what we're doing.
So if you were the state, would you put in a different policy than the away for the day?
So that's a good question, because the state didn't tell us locally what we have to do, right? So all that the state did is said that each school has to develop their own policy. So the rules and the way that we do it is something that we chose, and the idea that each school can determine for themselves is really what the state was hoping for. So if we went around the area, each different school kind of has their own rules. And obviously we think at elementary schools probably it's really easy to limit. Middle schools are somewhere truly in the middle, and a lot of our high schools locally are doing things similar to us. So when it came time to implement or decide what we were going to do, we probably spent more time talking to other local schools to determine what we think the best route for us is. But I will say this law came about probably in March of last year, and I would say in about January of last year, I had in my mind that we would come into this year with the policy that we are doing. So even without the state passing some legislation that gave some guidance, our likelihood would have been that we would have followed this policy this year, and we would have decided that for ourselves.
Oh, why do we not have the same policy as the high school?
So just like we don't have the same policy as high schoolers on different things, let's say being able to leave campus during lunch. Right? One of the logical ideas is that as we go through school, we probably follow rules and develop more freedom as we go. So one of the things that I would say is that our middle schoolers oftentimes have more restrictive policies, and then we gain more freedom as we get older and kind of develop responsibility. Probably a little bit of that piece is with high schoolers. There's probably more movement, so they're in and out of the building. They can come and go between classes. Sometimes they sometimes go home. Sometimes they're off campus. So just like almost every other policy that we have, we're kind of building up towards eventually having more freedom in high school.
So what you said with the other local schools, so do you guys have similar policies then?
Yep, I'd say our local schools probably go from the most restrictive policy that some schools have is they have the pouch, and students come in at the beginning of the day, they put it in a pouch, and then they don't have access to it all day. And some schools have done that kind of middle school up through high school. but oftentimes they're smaller and they share a campus and they want one policy for each school. So there are some that have gone a little bit more restrictive, and I'd say there's more that are probably doing the exact same thing we're doing. So most of the schools are probably in line with what we do, which is middle school, just keep it away for the day, and then high school having a little bit more freedom.
Can you tell us a couple more examples of what other schools are doing, like Pipestone?
I don't know Pipestone exactly. The two schools that I know went to the most restrictive policy were Russell Tyler Ruthven and Westbrook Walnut Grove. So each of those schools, in 6 through 12 students come in each day. They have a pouch. They put their phone in the pouch so they can have it in their backpack, but they don't have access to it. I would say if we look locally, Adrian, Hills Beaver Creek, and probably Worthington are doing things pretty similar to what we're doing, maybe with a little bit of tweak some places, one versus the other.
All right, James, do you have anything else to say, Mr. Phelps? Or me?
No.
All right, Mr. Phelps, do you have anything else to say about the phone policy?
I do not. I appreciate you guys having me on, and like I said, I appreciate kind of the cooperation we've had from students and families, and as much as it seems like it's a hot topic for us at school, it really hasn't changed a lot in the way that we do things, and we want students to be respectful of it, but also understand that there are times that if you need to use your phone, that we make exceptions, and we are workable, kind of understanding that there are times that you do need to communicate with parents. So appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you for coming. And remember, kids,
Stay super.